Well, good evening, folks. Hope you're doing all right for a Friday. It's been a pretty lumpy Friday for me, let's put it that way. Still a bit sore, feeling a lot better than I was yesterday. Still finding it hard to take a reasonable sized breath, but we're getting through it. And can I say, with the liberal application of comfrey oil and the iTerra wand, I'm pretty comfortable with how I'm sort of feeling at the moment. It's a bit sore in certain places. I'm not going to be running any marathons. Not in a little while, but anyway, live, learn, and grow. That's what I say. So thank you to everybody who sent messages, hoping that I was okay, and prayers. Thank you to Sunflower. God love you, woman. Sending prayers and everything else you do for me. Thank you so much. Aussie Sue, first one in the room tonight. There you go, girl. Does that mean you're leaving us early? We'll try not to talk too long tonight. Who else is in the house? I saw Keefe turn up. Hello, Keefe. That might mean the Roys are about. Hello, boys. Dave-O, nice to see you back in, mate. Yeah, feeling better is a relative thing. And, yeah, it's feeling better than it was. So, yep, doing okay. G'day, Ray. Nice to have you into DM. Chris is in. Who else have I seen down here? Marie, Zippy, Debs is in, Donna Lee, got a couple have popped in on Rumble as well. So hello to you guys there. All right, bit of a Friday night, not going to get too socially excited. There are 2 or 3 interesting bits and pieces that I would like to draw your attention to. But to do that, we'll have a little bit of a discussion. And as usual on a Friday night, well, not usual, but I like to get him in on a Friday night. It gets him away from the beer when he's down at his own My Place. Of course, I'm talking the man who came up with the My Place concept and put it into action during COVID in Victoria, specifically in Frankston, in a warehouse that he owns down there. Good evening, Mr. Darren Bergwerf. How are you, mate?
Very well, Carl. How are you feeling?
Well,
it wasn't such a happy ending massage, that one, was it?
No, mate, there was no happy ending in this one. Although I did walk away with a phone number. It wasn't to a lawyer, it was to a doctor, but that's okay. Yeah, interesting problem. But I think I have what is called a displaced floating rib. And it's niggly. Let's just say that. It's just niggly today. It's feeling better. So
just between me and you, I don't think you'll line up for any marathons anytime soon anyway. So it hasn't really stopped you doing too much.
No, mate. No, it just makes it harder to get out of the chair. I consider it deeper exercise.
Yeah.
Thanks for your love and your support, you bastard. Now, My Place, mate's kicking goals all over the place. You're being imitated left and right, which is, I suppose not a bad thing, provided that all the right things are being imitated. But My Place itself is kicking goals left and right, and there is something coming that I think everybody should be aware of. If you haven't got a My Place in your vicinity yet, this potentially has the possibility to help you not only establish your own, but take advantage of the My Place network that's already available. Is that that's coming our way in the not too distant future, Darren?
Certainly, what we've been talking about since probably January or February is going to be launched. We've already been on it for a few weeks. A lot of the coordinators, we're getting more and more jumping on the Unity Hub all the time. I think actually tonight they might even be doing a training run on how to use it, and Sean kind of goes through all the usages and pulls the boxes down, and it shows you all the things you can do on Unity Hub. It's way better than Facebook. There's so much more you can do with Unity Hub, and it's uncensored. So the timing is impeccable with the disinformation bill about to roll out, and Facebook and these other platforms probably going to be getting more pressure to silence us. We're going to be able to share and do as we please within reason. We're still going to be censoring people. There will be no abusive kind of language or anything like that. But as far as talking about things and doing it in the private on our back channel, people will be able to do as they please. And every single My Place group around the country will have a Unity Hub site similar to Facebook. We'll be running a duopoly, so Facebook will continue to run. as front of house, so that we can kind of continue to entice and bring people to the table. That'll be as like the funnel to get people into the Unity Hub and into our private service.
Can I just interrupt you on that? Just that point. I get so many requests from people, and it's probably already popped up in the chat. So many people are not on Facebook, but they want to be part of this. Have you got other platforms, whether they're into Twitter or into Instagram or, anything else, any other way, even snail mail that they can get a hold of you?
Well, yeah, we've got our website, obviously, myplaceaustralia.org. Now, on that website, there's a 165 or 167 MyPlace communities. It's state-based, so you can click on Queensland, and it will come up of every single MyPlace that's already operating in Queensland. Some of the ones that have been established for a little bit will have a Facebook page. They'll also have maybe Telegram and potentially a website. And all of those links are on our myplaceaustralia.org website. So Gympie, for instance, I don't even know what they've all got, to be honest. So I know that they're all developing, more other sites, whether it be Telegram. That's the first one that they do. When they build up a big enough community and they've got enough people to manage a website, they'll design and implement their website. But this is another thing again where, like I said, it won't be available to the general public. There'll be a subscription fee. At this stage, it's looking like $5 a month that will give you full access to that private server and all the other things that you'll become a member basically of MyPlace Australia, and all the other things that we implement as we go along, you'll have access to as well.
That sounds brilliant, mate. And give us a broad overview. I know you don't really have the specifics at hand, but give us a broad overview of what the Unity Hub is designed to do. Will it be a place where people can do the shopping?
That's funny because we had probably not. Well, who knows? Who knows? There are add-ons that we can keep going there. I mean, we're going to have full-time IT people there eventually. If not this year, probably early next year. So we're going to have to start paying wages, and that's where the money's going to kind of go into to actually keep improving and making this bigger and better. We were on a farmer Zoom last night actually, and we were speaking about databases of farmers that are like-minded and doing that state-based as well. We're rolling out a state-based operations coordinator. I spoke to Luke today, and he's looking like he's going to help manage all of the Queensland branches.
Wonderful.
Communities. So, we haven't really been pushing ahead with the expansion. We wanted to get some things finalised. We wanted to get the Unity Hub up and running. We wanted to get our not-for-profit signed, sealed and delivered. Our positive culture agreement, which Penny and the team have been working on in the background, and get all these things actually signed off and start supporting the communities we've already got up and running before we go into a growth kind of spurt, which we will do in the not too distant future. But it's no point if we're not managing what we've already started properly and got all the processes and things in place to support those groups. It's no point starting any new ones in large quantities, at least anyway.
Yeah, no, true. Quite rightly, you say you need to have people in the background running all this. They need to be paid. The coordination at from both local all the way through to a national level is immense. That's required, and you've been setting this up in the background now for the last couple of years. Probably the last 12 months intensively. Are you surprised at how quickly and how enthusiastically people have grasped this idea, this concept?
I guess I was actually, like late last year. It was just a bit of a whirlwind, and we were just kind of expanding at a ridiculous rate of knots. And it wasn't until January really when we started MyPlace Australia and started building a team. So we've only really been doing that for about 7 months. And we've got a lot of things in place. We've got a lot of things still to put in place, and we've got a team that's growing all the time. We've got merchandise that's about to come online, and we've got our marketing and merchandise team up and running now, and we're bringing more people to the IT team. And this Unity Hub was something that I always wanted to implement from day one, and I thought we're only weeks away back in January.
Yeah.
It's taken a little bit longer, but it's going to be really good. And the whole idea was to not just connect your community where you are, which obviously is important, but to connect your community with hundreds or thousands of other communities around the country, because we don't all have the right knowledge or the same knowledge, and there's people all over this country that have pieces of the puzzle that we don't have, that can kind of complement what we're doing. And if we put it all together, and then we get a national kind of knowledge base that's pretty consistent across the land, and that's something that we need to have. And so all the groups will have their own Unity Hub group. Then we will have state groups. So there'll be New South Wales, there'll be Queensland, there'll be producers from those states as well, and databases that you can research. So anyone in New South Wales, there'll be probably not zones, but there'll be certain specific areas that might be the Sunshine Coast. And we break it down even to that point where we have regions where you can hook up with producers. You can also have a database of producers on the state based and also a national based one. So, and then all of our groups, of course, within the MyPlace communities, and at this stage across the board, we've probably only got 3 groups that nearly every MyPlace would have, and that's the food security, which is going to be paramount. That we stop shopping at these cabal stores and start spending our money cash with our like-minded local farmers, and cut out the middleman. And the other one is the health and wellness, and then the community action groups. So those 3 are probably the most prominent. There will be 2 or 3 coordinators from each one of those groups from around the country that will also have their own channel on Unity Hub. So it'll be coordinators for MyPlace Australia Health and Wellness, and then those guys will they'll be the real workhorses that'll be behind the scenes, getting the information, developing projects, flyers, PowerPoint displays, all the education that we want to provide for our members across the country.
How are you finding the politics as the MyPlace network has grown? How are you finding the internal politics of it?
It's getting a little bit messy because it doesn't matter what group it is. People still have multiple kind of ideas of the way forward. It doesn't matter whether you're in A1 or you're in MyPlace or you're in any other group. The one thing I'm finding hardest to get through to people is trying to wean them off the whole idea of politics and using politics as a way to change this country. It's just not going to happen. And we had a federal election 16 months ago that showed us, or 14 months ago, that showed us that we roughly got about 4% of the vote, which was reasonable. And then we went to a state election in Victoria, in November, that we got about 2%. And then we went to a state election this year in New South Wales, which I think the percentages were even lower than that again. So we've actually been progressively getting worse at the ballot box over the last 12 months. And if that doesn't show people, and we've had referendums before where we've voted a certain way and the opposite's actually been implemented regardless of what our vote is. So until people all get on the same page that there is no way to vote our way out of this, or to get somebody in the inside and actually start to implement the idea of leaving the system behind, which is our whole plan, including the shops and the businesses and the politicians, and we don't vote and we don't do this and we don't do that, and we basically a civil disobedience, and we do it in a collaborative kind of community where we support each other through that process. So that's the page that I'm trying to get everyone onto. The voice is no different. It won't matter what you vote for. They're going to bring it in. Albanese's already said that. So I think what is more prominent is getting the message through to people that these fuckwits in Canberra and Spring Street in Melbourne and anywhere else in parliaments and councils have zero authority. Zero authority. right? And until people own that and stop actually listening to them, it's like your neighbour telling you how to clean your pool or how to mow your lawn or whatever else. They've got no authority to tell us what we can and can't do, providing we are causing no harm. And until people get that through their heads and actually do some research on who they are and then own that. Now, look, in saying that, I'm on a journey. I've been through the whole political thing. Someone put it up the other day. Oh, didn't you run in the election? And I said, yeah. I said, that was 14 months ago. I said, anyone that stays in a position when you get new knowledge is obviously inept of being able to move or understand and solve problems, because you can't stay concreted to a position that doesn't work, because it's the definition of insanity. And that's certainly not what I would ever do. If something's not working, you've got to find your way around it. And this government's unlawful. In fact, you're breaking the law. You're committing a crime every time you vote, because you're not part of the corporation.
Yep, exactly. And in fact, the Constitution outlaws parties, political parties. So somehow or other, our political parties have been able to circumvent that little particular piece of our Constitution as well, which is, not surprising. We've been talking about a few things this week, and one of them has been how do we get our rights back? And we all went to Canberra. Well, not me, but a lot of people went to Canberra. Let's call it 1.5, 2 million people. I said last night, the night before, we are in what I believe is an abusive relationship. It's no different if it was, a husband and wife, or a married or unmarried couple. We are being abused by our partner in Australia, and our partner in Australia is the government and the bureaucracy that is supporting the government. So with that level of abuse that's being heaped upon us, the people need to do what happens in a violent, abusive relationship. Somebody has to leave it, or somebody ends up being killed in it. And right now it's pretty evident who's getting killed in it. So the only way to leave it is, as you say, rise up together, link arms together, brothers and sisters of the country, of the world, and turn your back on the government. They require our money to do anything. We can do and handle all the services that are required. Yep. It requires administration. It doesn't require government. It requires administration. Is that a fair comment, Darren?
Oh, I think so. I mean, we're the ones that provide all the skills to build this country. Not necessarily the people that take those skills and make a fortune out of them. So we can do this. It's a leap of faith, I guess, and people aren't confident that we have the numbers to do it. But you've got to start somewhere. Everything starts in someone's garage. I mean, Bill Gates started in a garage, and it doesn't matter how we start or where we start. We're starting a lot further advanced than that. We've probably got near on 60,000 plus people around the country now, and there's I've traversed kind of through this minefield for the last 18 months, 2 years, and the Constitution to me was a huge part of what we need to reestablish. I've got people talking in my ear at the moment that are saying that these constitutionalists have absolutely no concept either, because they're barking up the wrong tree as well. You've got people saying that we're actually under American law, and we can use the I think the UCC. And there's other people saying that they're all got it wrong, and we've just got to go back to natural law. And then you've got the Spears camp as well, of course, that we have the United Kingdom of Australia that's already been given to us. But then you have the other side of the coin, which I think probably holds the most, in my opinion, at this stage, the most power, and it's the only reason that Australia is a sovereign land, and that's the First Nation people. There are only two sovereign countries in the whole world, and that's Australia and Russia. So the First Nation people are doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that not everyone's privy to. And I still believe that they're a big part of any change that's going to happen in this country.
The problem seems to be a lot of competition, shall we call it, in the First Nations market, saviour market, for the want of a better way of putting it. And given, some historical issues notwithstanding, people may doubt that process. That the person that rises, or the idea that rises to the top, may not necessarily be the right one, because it has been in great evidence for many years that our corporate blacks have been being paid very well and have been very good at subverting their own people away from the money, diverting that back to themselves, more or less. So how do we help clear up that muddy water?
Well, they're on notice as well, and it doesn't matter what race, religion, or country you're from. There's always bad eggs in every kind of community, in every race, in every country, and the bad eggs are the ones that the lunatics are controlling the asylum at the moment, and that's the same in the black community as it is in the white community. We're being ruled by belligerent foreign occupiers. That's only come to notice, or come to knowledge, for me at least, in the last 12 months. The only way we can move forward, you got to remember that whether it be the black corporates or the white corporates, they are the minority, right? And yes, they have the guns, as everyone keeps saying, but that's irrelevant, because if we come together, the people, black, white, red, yellow, doesn't matter, male, female, and whatever other genders you want to call yourself, if we all come together as the people, we are the majority, and we're building those relationships behind the scenes, and it's not through any leadership, right? Yep. We've got to get away from these leaders, and I've been saying that for 12 months, whether they be religious, political, union leaders, whatever leaders, political leaders, they're not worth listening to. They are taking you down the wrong path, and they're still doing it. Even these freedom parties, so-called freedom parties, right, that are trying to join together at the moment, they're still taking people down the wrong path. And, we've got 3 years more, 3.5 years before we have another election in Victoria. We got over 2 to 3 years before we have another federal election. What do people think is going to happen in that 2 or 3 years? You're going to expend all your time and energy, finances, trying to build a political party that's going to get smashed at the next election, and then we're in the same position or a worse position than we are now. The minute people just can get it in their heads that there is no political answer, and to put all that shit away and just come together as people, and learn how we can walk away and dismantle the system by non-compliance and not taking part in it. The quicker we get enough people into that position, the quicker this finishes.
So we're getting a few comments about councils. Obviously, Yarra Valley has had some success with what's going on in their council region. There's been some good successes in the Frankston Council, obviously, because we have been referring to you as the mayor for some time. But now councils are getting serious. This one has issued debt recovery agency for paying unlawful rates. Somebody else pointed out here, I want to say it was Sunflower, which would put it into the Noosa Council that the council have admitted they've been operating as a corporation and under the Companies Act since 1990. So if they're admitting these things, why can't we find someone to enforce the law against them?
Well, because we've got a lot of judges that need to be strung up, in my point of view. In my opinion, we have a lot of judges in this country that will end up facing the high jump or going to jail for the rest of their life. They don't believe that they will. They're still belligerent. I was on a phone call just before I jumped on here, and the case that Darren Dixon put against the Yarra Ranges Council has been, we've lost that case. So the council, the judge ruled that the council hasn't done anything wrong. They did everything right, which flies in the face of anything that's actually legitimate. And I've read something today, actually I screenshotted that under the Corporations Act and all of those other acts and the Constitution, that these corporations, if you have a property that's in fee simple on your title, that it cannot be taxed or rated. So, there's so many different things, but it doesn't matter whether we're right or the law's on our side as far as how it's written. What we have is a total corrupt system, judiciary system, backed up by a police force that is also in cahoots with them, in my opinion. And it's dictated to by a corporate belligerent foreign occupying government that isn't a government, that is also a business, and funnels all the money back to the Rothschilds and the BlackRocks and I mean, like the web of the web of connections of the Commonwealth Bank and the tax office and BlackRock and all these multinational companies is just ridiculous. And that's the knowledge that people need to know, that their tax dollars aren't going to roads and where they think they're going to. That the debt that we're racking up might be going to roads and to hospitals and education, but the money and the taxes they're paying are going into the pockets of the rich and famous.
Yeah. And well, some of those elitists and governments are working to put a few more bucks in people's pockets, particularly in China at the moment. And the only pockets that money is going into are to members of the CCP. There is a hell of a lot of awful shit going down there, and we're going to get into talking with that very shortly. Darren, I'll let you go. I know that you're a busy bloke. It's a Friday night, and the demands on you, including having a frothy after a hard week on the tools, must be important and many. So I'll let you go. Thanks for spending a bit of time with us tonight and giving us a bit of an idea. I can't wait until the Unity Hub is up and running. I think it's going to be one of the most important community resources that My Place brings to Australia. And I look forward to being able to help you with that in any way, shape and form as we progress forward over the next, hopefully very exciting few months.
Yeah, no worries, Carl. And thanks again for inviting me on. And I'm off to Sydney next Saturday. So anyone in Sydney or the surrounds of Sydney or an hour out of Sydney, please, I'm making an effort, giving up my whole day and finances to fly up to Sydney to come and launch the My Place Sydney groups. I really hope you get out there in numbers. I want to see hundreds of people there if you can. And and if you do your Brisbane one sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll see what we can organise for that as well.
Absolutely. I'm just waiting to get confirmation that the licensing thing has all gone through. And once that's happened, the doors will be open and we'll be able to kick it in. The venue isn't actually open yet. So as soon as it does open, we'll be kicking the door in. So I'm looking forward to getting you up here for that. That'll be brilliant. And, if something happens and, I don't know, a blessing falls from the sky, I might even come down to Sydney and try and meet up with you down there next weekend too. So it's only money and it's only a 10-hour drive. So, hey, we get there. All right, man. Look forward to talking to you during the week. Have a good one. Say hi to... Is Anna back yet?
No, Wednesday.
All right. Well, we'll hold off my hellos until she gets back.
Yeah, no problem, mate. And enjoy the rest of your show. And like I said, thanks again for everything you do to promote My Place and what we're doing.
Mate, anything I can do for My Place, you've been there for me. I plan on being here for you. That's how it works. So thank you.
Good on you, mate. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Darren Bergwerf, the originator of My Place. And it's such a good idea that assholes like TAP have got to go and try and steal it. And they're trying to do it in really cheap, shitty ass kind of the ways you'd kind of expect them to work, white anting. Maybe that's the easiest way of explaining my love for them. So I did say we'd have Galactic Larrikins on tonight. That is a plural kind of delivery. And so I'll bring the one on that we normally have with the spongy hair. The haircut's going very well. How are you, Robert?
Very good, mate. Very good. It's my incognito to cover for my conspiracy theories.
Is that what it is? Oh,
Yeah,
see,
then I
well,
just
I gotta
look crazy,
say,
and
well, it looks nothing like a tin foil hat. So, you're up there. On the other hand, I see, I don't know what the hell's happened to Bradford, but we've got Noah joining us tonight.
How are you?
I mean,
You like it?
fair dinkum. Listen, I'm just embarrassed because you're showing. I couldn't grow that much facial hair in the next 15 years.
Oh, you're doing a pretty good
No,
job. You
I
got
couldn't.
just that.
This is it. Up
goatee,
here,
that's it.
nothing. Just ridiculous. Patchy
Yeah.
bits. But you, on the other hand, mate, that is a magnificent face full of fluff you've got there.
Yeah, well, I've
Sure
never
is.
really grown it out this far, so I thought I'd give it a go and go for the Grizzly Adams look,
I can see mustache and beard competitions coming for you. Full waxing comps,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Big curly thing, and
I don't know if I'd be that. No, I'm not a what do you call them? A hipster. I'm not
a
a hipster.
wanker.
Although
A hipster.
That's exactly, no hipster. Then that's
Right.
exactly what a hipster would say, wouldn't they?
I would have thought so. Yeah. No, but they have big competitions in Europe for those sort of historical hirsute man hair competitions.
Yeah.
So you can get your nostril hair plaited into your back and that sort of stuff. It's really good for blokes who are hairy.
All I need to do is just transplant some of it up here.
Well, yes, I must say, I like the way you've managed to tease it up on top there tonight, though. That adds to the mad scientist bit of it.
The Donald Trump.
Yeah. So, boys, it has been an interesting week of. Well, you mentioned Donald Trump. 10 indictments now coming out of Atlanta, Georgia, but some good news, or some interesting news at least. I don't know if it's good. I'm pretty confident it's good news. To come out of Atlanta, Georgia today was this little piece. Arizona House Speaker and Senate President have officially filed a joint support brief for Abraham Hamida's election challenge in the Supreme Court. He has evidence of 9,000 ballots that remain uncounted, and he only lost by 250. And this is the document that they have put forward, which says, we, the undersigned, being duly elected. I can't read it now because my glasses. Hang on, I'm going to have to change glasses. Bloody hell, I'm getting a bit ridiculous. We, the undersigned, being duly elected members of the Georgia House of Representatives and Georgia Senate, and comprising 3/5 of each such respective house, pursuant to Article 4, Section 2, Paragraph 7B, hereby certify to you in writing with a copy of the Secretary of State that our opinion in emergency that in our opinion an emergency exists in the affairs of the state, requiring a special session to be convened under that section for all purposes to include without limitation the review and response of the actions of Fannie Willis. Fannie Willis was the lady in charge of the certification of the Georgia election results. So that's going to prove to be a little bit interesting. The senators that released that tweet, I think, was it on the bottom of it there? Pardon me. No. One of the comments from the senators that released that was, I am not going to allow an attack on our country's freedom to go unanswered like this. And so they've been able to rally that sort of challenge in Georgia right now. I hope to, over the weekend, catch up with a mate of mine who does a show out of Atlanta, Georgia. His name's Chuck O'Celli. And hopefully Chuck will come on at some stage. We're just going to try and work out time zones. We'll probably wind up doing it over the weekend at some stage. I may not play it back until Monday or Tuesday night, but it'll be a good chat. He'll tell us the feeling of what's going on in Georgia at the moment about all of this from both perspectives too. And with a little bit of luck, we'll also be joined by a guy called David Alcock, who comes from the West Coast. And, well, once you hear his voice, you'll understand why they call him Alcock. That's actually his name. But, boy, does he have a voice. Big time. So the other thing I wanted to talk about with you guys quickly before we get on to the topic that you guys are going to be chatting about is this latest thing that people are finding being advertised in a social media or electronic device near you from the Australian government, now offering to pay for funerals.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's not say the C word. Let's not say the J word. But that should be, well, should that or should that not be a bit of a wake-up call to some folks with their eyes still closed, boys?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? You would think so.
Interesting, isn't it?
But there's,
Wow.
like some people are just never going to wake up. That's the problem. There's going to be that certain percentage of people that I think that, when you think about it, the hardest part of it would be admitting to yourself what you've done to your children. And I don't think, and for some people that would be enough to give them a heart attack or kill them. And that's what that's what one of our favorite letters of the alphabet happened to mention, that there would be a suicide weekend. That could be the reason for that. I can't think of anything that could be worse. Can't think of a worse feeling.
No.
So I think there'll be certain people who will never ever admit it to themselves, and that's fine. That's their choice. That's their trip that they chose when they came here.
Yeah, true. But wow, still, it's well, we know it's a humiliation thing. It's a pride thing. Is it an ego thing? I guess it's an ego thing at some point. But at what point do you let your pride get in the way? At what point do you just humiliation and say, "Well, bugger it, I want help. I'm coming. I need to ask. I need to know. I need to learn, not just stand back, poke fingers, and make pointed jokes." Do you think that time's coming sooner?
I think if history repeats and it's human psychology, what is it? There's multiple stages of it, and that first there's denial, and then anger, and eventually it's just I can't remember the term now. It's gone blank because there's a camera on. But that ultimate just acceptance, and that's what it will become. All of a sudden, they'll be, oh no, we always said that. We always said that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just psychology, human psychology.
But like everyone,
I don't care what they say. Just get it on. Sorry, Bruce.
For everyone's going to have a different point, aren't they? Everyone's going to have a different aha moment. But like they say, there's meant to be a 100th monkey effect or something, isn't there? Where there's one point where everyone just goes, now we get it. We're all awake now. So when that's going to be, who knows?
Yep. That the 100 monkey effect. 100% right. For those who aren't aware of it, it had to do with 8 monkeys in a room with some bananas hanging from a cord from the ceiling with a ladder that went up to the bananas. And the first monkey that decided what was introduced to the room, there's 7 others sitting there, couldn't figure out what went on. So why weren't they getting the bananas? So it climbed up, grabbed a hold of the bananas, and all the monkeys got sprayed down with ice cold water. And that happened every time a monkey went up to try and get a banana. And in a very short period of time, anytime a monkey got up to go and try and get the banana, all the other monkeys would beat the shit out of it. So then they would replace a monkey. They'd take one out and put a new one in. So 7 in there knew what was going on. The one that didn't obviously tried to get the banana, had the shit beaten out of it, but only once. It didn't know why it got the shit beaten out of it, but it knew then not to go up and get the banana anymore. They took another older monkey out, replaced it with a newer one, and it tried to go and get the banana. The other new monkey joined in on the beating of this latest edition. Didn't know why it was beating it, didn't know anything about that. Anyway, it went on like this until they'd changed out all of the monkeys. And eventually, none of them would go anywhere near the bananas. None of them knew why. But if any one of them went near the ladder and tried to climb up to it, they all would pounce on them and kill it. So that's essentially, in an abbreviated fashion, how the experiment worked. And that's what we've been done. It's the same, isn't it, boys, as the old boiler frog story?
So were you describing religion then?
There was a human study with the same, when they would be standing up. Remember that one? Where they would stand up and no one understood what. Yeah, they'd all be actors except for one, and they'd all stand up, and then they'd look around. Oh, okay, I got to stand up, and replaced them all, and eventually, they all
Yep.
stood up and they didn't know why they were doing
Yep.
it. Yeah. But the 100th monkey study was originally done in Japan, on these islands in Japan, and the researchers who were researching the monkeys there, they were feeding them, and they noticed that this one particular monkey would grab its food and wash it, and then eat it, and then that monkey would show the other monkeys in that group to wash the fruit, and then they would all start washing the fruit. Then the researchers realized that behavior of washing the fruit before they ate it spread to other islands, and that's when the whole 100th monkey effect began. And that was I can't remember, but that was a long
70s
time
or
ago.
80s or something. 70s or 80s.
Wow,
I thought it was even earlier, like the 50s or something.
Could have been, yeah.
It's in the Holographic Universe. If you read a book called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, one of my favorite books, it details it all in that, and it's really remarkable.
In today's terminology in quantum physics, it's called entanglement.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Like that. So yeah, entanglement, basically.
Exactly.
I know you boys have got something you're going to talk about. I just want to show a bit of video. I'm going to bring it up, and we're probably
before you do that. I just got a quick comment about your previous story about the indictment. I'm just wondering who's got this sense of humor. The last sort of big scandal with Hillary Clinton, the guy was called Anthony Weiner, and this one's called Fanny somebody or other. I mean,
Fanny Willis. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Somebody's having a lend of us. Do you think? Yeah, that's half a chance.
Anthony Weiner was sending dick pics. So does that make Fanny such and such a?
I'm not going there tonight, mate. That's a great get, but I'm not going there. Have you heard what's happened in China? Things going on in China at the moment are pretty dire. There are hundreds of thousands of people being murdered in China at the moment, and they're doing it with flooding. Now, I'm going to play you a video here. I hope. There you go. Now, you should still be able to hear us talk. There's no audio on it. But this will give you a bit of a look. This is in an area called Zhaozhou or Zhaozhou. Zhaozhou. Flood waters are up to 3 and 4 meters in some places, up to the 3rd and 4th level of accommodation buildings. You can see here some people are having some real issues. Now, we're familiar with flood damage here in Australia, but we don't have the population density that China does. And you'll see here that some of these rivers are flowing at a phenomenal rate. Now, this is interesting. These are the emergency service workers attaching steel plates to that bridge so that people can't see the damage that the water is creating downriver there. So they're trying to block off the people from seeing what's going on rather than fixing them. These are fake drains. This is somebody going in and showing that this isn't a drain at all. This is a drain cover that's been put in the ground, but there is nothing in there except a bit of dirt and a box. Same thing for that. So the water isn't getting away. They are killing hundreds of thousands of people in this rain event. And there has been a great deal of evidence come out in the last week about the Chinese weather modification systems. And even as late as this morning, I heard a podcast where it was outright claimed that a new weather weapon had been discovered that had been fired up. They didn't know it existed. It had been fired up by China, and it was creating different weather patterns around the country, in China particularly, flooding certain areas of China, and also creating problems in the Middle East with drought. So based on the evidence of that, those pictures are not coming out on mainstream Chinese TV. Those pictures are coming out, and I have some others here. I just haven't sucked them in, but if I'm honest, I could probably...
Their biggest worry then is the Three Gorges Dam, because that was made... there was a lot of grift and corruption going on, so a lot of the money was siphoned off. So by the time it got down to the contractors and actually built, a lot of the steel wasn't put in that was supposed to be put in. Back in 1990,
put in.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. But back in '99, there was actually international engineers and observers came over to evaluate it. They were so worried, and they said, "Man, you got to tear this thing down." And they said, "Well, it's basically 3/4 built. We can't." So they just finished it, and it's so full. Like in 2020, it got so full it deflected, and you can actually look at a Google map on Google Earth.
Yep.
And it deflected heaps. So if they're full again, and if that thing goes, mate.
Well, that's not going to just
hundreds of millions of people would die.
Yeah,
that's not
wide
just
open.
China. That's not just China. And I think it's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when the Three Gorges Dam goes, because we also have. Well, I don't know that we have evidence, but we've certainly been told that the CCP have essentially another city built under the Three Gorges Dam that is multiple levels deep, that is all full of human scientific experimentation. It's also the largest Bitcoin mining operation in the world. And the reason that it is located where it is in the dam system is because apparently Bitcoining operations require huge amounts of power. So the closer you are to the power source, I guess, the better you are. And they built themselves the largest Bitcoin mining operation on the globe underneath the Three Gorges Dam. There is also, I think, the Chinese Secret Service, you might find, have akin to hospitals down there, although I don't know how much like hospitals they are, other than that the organ trafficking market was, from accounts, running out of China, and there were a lot of Falun Gong who wound up in that facility when they crossed the CCP in whatever fashion. They just disappeared off the face of the earth, and that's where they wound up, probably donating their organs unwillingly. So there is a lot of evil shit going down in China at the moment, and apparently all efforts have been ramped up to try and shut down this new weather modification machine, which has a lot to do with strontium, aluminium, barium, and something else being put into the atmosphere. Now, we know that strontium, aluminium, and barium are not three things that you want to have lying around the bush during an Aussie summer, or for that matter, a Northern Hemisphere summer. We've seen evidence of the fires that have gone through Maui and Lahaina, and some of the pictures that I've seen, car engine blocks melting and running down the street. Now that's just not the kind of heat you would expect out of even a big bushfire. To do that to an Australian bushfire, I would argue, is every bit as harsh as what you would expect in Hawaii or the west coast of America. I would argue in some cases probably more so, and never seen that sort of temperatures to be melting cast iron blocks. So
we saw a sort of thing at 9/11. I remember melted mag wheels and things like that happening. Potentially DEWs.
So what do you guys want to get onto? I've rambled enough tonight. I'm just going to get rid of a troll because I'm sick and tired of watching him pop up. What do you guys want to talk about? You guys have been watching movies this week.
Well, yeah, Rob, you bloody put us onto it. What was the interview?
It was originally a podcast I watched, one of the podcast shows, but the guy's name's Brandon. God, I've gone blank now, of course.
Yeah, I couldn't remember, that's why I asked you.
Brandon, he was come to me in a minute. But he is the new owner, and he's had it since about 2016, of the Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch has been pretty famous in the UFO circles. It was very well known for UFO sightings and cattle mutilations. And it was originally bought back in about 96 by
Bigelow.
Thank you, Brigalow. See, between the two of us, we can remember. Yeah. So the aerospace guy Brigalow, private aerospace guy Brigalow.
You're right up on me, because I just thought it was a UFO brothel in Vegas.
But yeah, he then was trying to evaluate what this phenomenon was, and was using sort of DARPA and Black Ops sort of money. But he's then recently sold it, or 2016, 17, sold it to this private guy, private land or sort of a developer, very wealthy guy who was a complete skeptic, but was willing just to go, no, let's do the science and find out what this phenomenon is. So with that, we're going to throw it over to Bruce. And what stood out to you about sort of these main phenomenon, or was it something strangeness, high strangeness?
High strangeness. Yeah, his name's Brandon Fugal, Fugal, and he was on the Sean Ryan show, episode 70. That's the fella.
Nice.
Fantastic interview. It's quite a long interview, but it's really worth watching. The guy started off as a property developer when he was a kid, like when he was 17, I think, 18. He did his first office. What do you call them? Office.
Commercial deal, anyway.
Yeah, office park. That's what I was looking for. And then so obviously now he's a billionaire, and he came across this Brigalow guy, and he bought the place, and he was always a skeptic, never
Right.
sort of believed in all this UFOs and high strangeness, but decided to investigate it in a scientific way, and he got the History Channel involved, and they got all he's literally spent millions of dollars investigating what's been going on this property, using lasers and blasting rockets up. But they found there was one episode where where they were flying along in a helicopter, like, I don't know, what were they?
5,000 feet or something?
Yeah, about 5,000 feet up, weren't they? Yeah, and their instrumentation was saying that they were 40 feet up, so there was something underneath them. Yeah. And so then they've gone back and looked at because they've got cameras everywhere on this ranch, and so they looked at the footage of the helicopter and slowed it down, and there were these fast-moving UFOs sort of just playing with them, basically, just flying underneath them, just having a toy.
Okay.
Then there's a couple of different areas of high strangeness. One's in this, what they call the mesa, which is like this cliff area. And then the other one, which was above in the area where the helicopter was flying. But both of them, and the history of the place going back to the American Indians, God, I hope that's the right cultural term to use these days.
Native Americans, yeah.
Native Americans, thank you. Basically, the history is that there's some sort of portal there, which is then creating these high levels of strangeness, the UFOs, the cattle mutilations, that sort of stuff. So in investigating that, to give a quick summary, they have found a couple of different things. So they tried drilling into this mesa, into the cliff wall, and they hit something solid, and it's spherical shaped, and it's a very dense metal, which they couldn't punch through. Dome, whatever it was. And then when they did testing on that metal, they found a couple of different things. One, that it flaked off in this very thin layers. On one side was one metal, and on another side was the other metal. One's a semiconductor and one's a superconductor. And if you actually create layers and layers and layers of that, the astrophysics theory, or the theory, is that this is able to manipulate gravity and therefore time. And then again, this is done through university studies and stuff like that. And then it also has this property of this like ceramic type nature, which was the same sort of stuff that they use on the space shuttle for the insulation for the high heat. So if you were running these sort of different phenomenon, this would work. And then the other side is where this helicopter, they've been shooting rockets up and all this sort of stuff, and it shows they would drop things out of the helicopter like smoke grenades and smoke bombs and things like that, and it would deflect off something. The rocket deflected off something, these smoke grenades deflected off something, so there is something invisible there. And again, it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Highly recommend it.
And also the LiDAR scanning too, which was fascinating. They used these drone LiDAR scan at the top of the hill, and they came up with these what looked like swarms of bees, but it was just pixels, So it wasn't actually something that they could see with their own eyes, but it was being picked up by this LiDAR, and on top of this mound, this, what do they call it? The
mesa.
The mesa, that's right, the mesa. It's like a plateau. And on top of this mesa is a stone circle, but it's a spiral. And other places on this mesa are some etchings of spirals as well. And they reckon that these spirals actually represent portals. And so they're saying that these areas, or this area in particular, contains a portal. And that was another finding they had with when they spotted another one of these Tic Tacs. They got these guys out who actually filmed that famous Tic Tac footage. They got them out to the ranch, and when they got them out, they spotted their second Tic Tac, and it basically disappeared into a portal. So so they're saying there's like these stargates and stuff at this. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
So I've had the same conversation today with somebody about a portal off Maui, and that in part the fires in Maui are to disguise the battle that's going on at the moment between, it looks like at this stage that there are two royal families of the Hawaiian Islands. There is a genuine Hawaiian family who can lay actual ancestral claim to that title, and there is another group from a different island that have more Filipino blood in them than Hawaiian, or a mix of Filipino, so they have no claim as to be ancestral, but they are the Rothschild, if you like, introduced Hawaiians. So they have the money, they have the cabal behind them. Now, anybody on this journey, and we've had Chris on, who likes and has spoken about the Galactic Federation on a number of occasions. Galactic Federation warriors, as far as we are aware, if you hear the same story I did this morning, we're coming through that portal in Maui, trying to launch what would be one of the last attacks on a stronghold, and that the deep state have turned to their fire creation technology, which interestingly does not appear to come from above. Okay, so there have been videos recorded of what happened and how these fires were started in Maui, and the assessment that I heard of those videos today is that they show that what we perceive to be a beam coming from above is actually coming from under the ground and burning its way out, or igniting when it hits oxygen, it hits the surface or whatever. So that indicates that there is, and this is what they said, that there is another base, a very large cabal base in Maui, under Maui. I think we all kind of knew that there was something going on there. They need a base out there for child trafficking. You can't go and have your summer holidays in Hawaii and not going to have your child to go and do whatever you want to. So there was bound to be something out there somewhere. But interesting, they're saying that this is a portal guard. Now, that to me would mean that there are at least two portals on the west coast then of America, because, well, the other one's not really on the west coast of America. It's on the western coast of Canada. We know just up north of Vancouver that there supposedly is another portal there. It was one of the first discovered. So that would put Canada, America. There is apparently a portal at Tonga. There's a portal in not Alice Springs, but at that wonderful militarized base not far out of Alice Springs. And apparently all of these were supposedly shut down, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe there are new portals popping up that, I don't know, the Galactic Federation or whoever else is fighting this battle didn't know about.
This, I said, obviously, I encourage everyone to watch this series it's on Bing, and you can sign up for free, 2 weeks and then cancel it and just watch it. But amazing their interaction with this sphere or this entity, whatever it is responding to them. There's a frequency, 1.6 gigahertz frequency, which is coming out when they're doing different things. it responds to activity. So when they're shooting these rockets up or flying helicopters or drilling into the mountain,
Yeah, or digging.
this 1.6 gigahertz frequency comes out, and then also things of high strangeness happen. People are becoming sick. They literally have medical incidents. They've had UFOs or UAPs appear, cattle mutilations happening,
radiation burns.
And the fact that they were shooting these rockets up to try and take all these readings, and it deflected off something, and they've got multiple instances of this, but then the entity or sphere or whatever it is, this intelligence is then reacting in a certain way. It seems like some form of communication, or how we would react if like we were experimented on. And what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to try and do all these different experiments, and they're sort of reacting to it.
But I think he was going to be. They were talking about excavating this dome structure under the Mezar, aren't they?
That's the season coming, so that's going to answer it one way or another. I guess they're going to dig into and find out what on earth this structure is. Yeah.
Speaking of excavating, have you heard the greatest and latest story about craters and how Australia might well be home to the largest crater on Earth, even bigger than that big one in, is it Mexico? The biggest known crater on Earth, the one that killed the dinosaurs?
I always assumed that the Great Australian Bight was a huge crater.
Well, that might nearly work in theory with what they're saying here with northern New South Wales or northwestern New South Wales, particularly around Deniliquin. They've been doing tests out there, and they've found a crater that's 520 kilometers wide. And I can't remember the exact depth. And the way that and I didn't know this, the way that they can tell through their soundings that there is a crater there, it's not just a natural dip in the earth or whatever, is that when a meteor strikes the earth, and it's borne out in some of the other crater sites around the globe, it hits the earth and leaves a mark like a drop of water hitting a water surface. So there is an outward ring, and the shock waves travel out, but there is also a reactive bit that comes back up, out of the hole, if you like, that the drop creates. Well, that happens with dirt, and that happens at the very center of craters. So they believe that they have found the center of this crater as one of these mounds, but it has, over time, been filled in, I guess, with dirt, dust, and whatever else. And we've all been through our dust storms here. How many dust storms did the world go through after a crater was made that size, I guess? And wouldn't be hard to fill it all up.
Oh, not with
over
flooding.
A couple million years.
Yeah, mud floods.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's an interesting
one. So the largest one was, before this one was discovered, was Kazakhstan. It's only 14 kilometers wide.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I thought there was one off Mexico, the Yucatan Basin. That was, that wasn't that. What's his name? Randall Carlson and those guys were promoting that was one of the end of the Younger Dryas or something like one of those.
Yeah. I think there are 4 or 5 big crater sites around the world that have each got, if not total extinction, then significant extinction events associated with them. But they date back sort of hundreds of millions of years. So to find this one, if it is in fact one, I can't imagine they're going to excavate it. We're not going to get a new tourist site to go and stand on the edge of. Be a bit like the Grand Canyon, I suppose. But it might be interesting to find out if that's actually what happened, and could that have caused the breakup of Gondwanaland? So
actually, now definitely not Kazakhstan. I'm finding bigger ones now.
Hey.
Sorry.
See, so just so you look old and wise doesn't mean that bears out in fact, really.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Quite often I can be full of crap. Okay. Anyway,
at least you're honest enough to admit it, brother.
And another interesting fact about craters is that all the craters on the moon are the same depth, even though they're all different diameters. That's interesting, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Roughly the same depth. Yeah.
And if you go to Bruce Sees All, you'll see things moving around in them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That chick who indicted Trump, Fanny, whatever, she's got a pretty
Fanny.
big crater.
Has she?
So I can see where the tone of any show you're going to produce goes.
Never.
Sadly.
Never.
Sadly. All right, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Unless you have anything further and constructive or better jokes to add, I feel no reason to entertain you further on Friday night. You could go forth and do the things that most normal people do rather than sit around and talk to strangers on the other end of a computer. But I do thank you for your input. And folks, if you want to go and check out the series of the week, the Skinwalker Ranch, it's on Binge. So go and check that one out. Appreciate it, boys. Love your work. And if I'm coming down to Sydney for Darren Bergwerf's big My Party barbecue, might see you there, hey?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be there. I believe that would be Bruce's birthday.
That'd be
That'd be about your birthday.
Next Saturday.
Yeah,
It was a couple of days after that, but pretty close.
Really? We could have a celebratory beard plucking or something, you know.
It's not a big birthday. Don't worry about it.
I'll bring some wax. We can twist you up.
I should get it trimmed a bit, shouldn't I? Make it look half decent.
Oh, I don't know.
Let's go Grizzly Adams.
I don't mind the Ned Kelly look about you at all. It's not too bad.
That's it.
Such as
Ned
life.
Kelly's grand.
yeah, exactly. All right, boys. Love your work.
Thank you for having us today, Carl. Appreciate it.
Hey, sorry.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome, mate. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for sharing some of your time with me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
No worries. Anytime.
Thank you, boys, and thank you, folks. It is a Friday night. We've been going a bit over an hour, so I don't want to hold you up too much longer. Please go and check out myplaceaustralia.org if you want to learn more about the Unity Hub and what's coming with that. There'll be more coming in coming weeks. As Darren said tonight, they're doing some training, but it is going to become one of the most useful resources in this country. I am absolutely sure of it. So, and a great alternative to Facebook. So keep that in mind. But yeah, the Unity Hub, it's on the way and coming real soon. I will be catching up with my American mates over the weekend. I will probably send that out live at whatever time it'll happen. I'm just not sure what time it will happen because we're trying to coordinate time zones on two different sides of America and Australia at the same time. So it's proving a little interesting. But we will hopefully get there. And if not, I'll just record it and put it out at an appropriate time on Monday or Tuesday. Also going to be talking with Cass Smith coming up. Well, that'll either happen on Monday or Tuesday too, I think. And if you are in the market to come and get into a little piece of heaven, might be able to help you out with that. So be listening or be watching for Monday night show with Cass Smith, and we might be able to help you at a very, very affordable price get your own little piece of heaven. It will be spectacular to have you as part of it. All right, have a wonderful weekend, folks. If you happen to be in Southeast Queensland or coming up to Southeast Queensland, the Pacific Air Show is on this weekend. It is going to be a magnificent, started today, magnificent event. I did see some of the video coming out of there today from some folks who were there. And I have to say, probably wasn't the most dynamic of displays I've seen. The most energetic one was the roulettes display. And well, you kind of expect that of the roulettes. But I didn't see all of it. I think I saw an Osprey doing its thing and a C-17 fly past very slowly. It, just flew past slowly. Didn't see any of the big military. Well, that was a big military jet, but didn't see any of the big fighter jets. They may have been down there. They would have done a bit of a run today. But the show itself is going to be huge Saturday and Sunday. And anywhere along the beach in Surfers Paradise, you'll be able to see it. If you're lucky enough, you'll be up in a high-rise and getting the commentary as well. So if you're heading off to that, have a bloody great one and make sure you stay safe on the roads. I look forward to talking to you, well, over the weekend or Monday.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!